I'm delighted to welcome today the very beautiful Dr. Ann Donnelly in Ireland, I believe, Anne.
I am indeed, Elaine. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Most welcome. I've had a quick poke about your website, anndonnelly.co.uk, I believe. Yes, anndonnelly.co.uk. And it says you've been a GP for over 20 years, but you only look 12. How does that work out?
Oh, Elaine, that is so very kind of you, but the years are most definitely there. Yeah, I qualified in medicine in 1992. That's a long time ago. I was just thinking that's 30 years now this year. And that was in Belfast, and I thoroughly enjoyed being a medical doctor. I went into general practice. I worked in it for nearly 20 years, but my passion in medicine then turned to palliative medicine, which is working very much with life-limiting disease. And all the while, I had this hunger for understanding the true essence of healing and maybe where disease really comes from. And, you know, while I was working in general practice, I had all these beautiful patients coming in to me and, you know, telling me their personal stories and looking for help, usually with something that I always felt there was a deeper cause for. So I went looking at different approaches to health, and that included other westernized and Eastern forms of health approaches. I actually became a yoga teacher. I studied acupuncture with the British Medical Acupuncture Society. I did neurolinguistic programming. I did homeopathy. And each one contributed to this big bag of tools that I had over my shoulder that I could present to patients when they came in. And while I enjoyed that and I found that it all helped, it wasn't until 2006 when I actually stepped into a meditation class myself in Belfast with the Modern Mystery School that it opened up a whole other realm of discovery, in particular self-responsibility around healing, and all healing based on the idea of knowing ourselves, truly knowing ourselves. And I was so impressed with the results in my own life that I decided to become a teacher within the school. And currently I'm an international teacher with the school, and I am one of a council of 12 women worldwide who have responsibility for running the School of Metaphysics. We work with ancient healing techniques and also with teaching various different classes which help people to understand themselves both as a spiritual being, an energetic being, and as well as this physical world. Because I believe that, you know, disease and of course healing modalities, it's multifactorial. It's not just one thing. And actually, I have a really strong sense that a lot of what happens to us in terms of when we're developing an illness of one kind or other, a lot of it can help start within our spiritual and energetic side of things. And our understanding of that has to increase if we are to become healthier overall within our within our human race. I honestly believe that if we are adhering to a spiritual practice, to a meditation practice, to mindfulness practices, that we will evolve as human beings, and we won't allow the suffering that we see going on our planet to the same level. We will stand up as evolved beings and take responsibility much more, which in turn will help our environment. It will help all the systems that we already have within our planet, including our education systems and our leadership systems, to help us create a new way of being, which we would call a new paradigm, which I'm very excited about. This is incredibly important that we acknowledge this. But first, when it comes to health, it's a personal journey that each one of us has to engage in. in order to really find out what is the core of our need and our growth.
Absolutely. You mentioned the important words of self-responsibility, and I find that incredible how some people just want to pop a pill, press a button. They can't even be bothered to kind of just look around them and see what they're eating, what they're drinking, how the energy that's surrounding them is just so negative and so on. But they expect everything to be done for them rather than them taking responsibility. I've noticed that quite a lot. And I became known as a go-to person for helping people reverse cancer or to have extra life in their years, you know, this type of thing through my own story. So I'm with you all the way on how the energy is just so important, and how we are in the moment and the mindfulness and all the rest of it. The thing I struggle with is the meditation. I'm not, in fact, I've just written a paper on meditation because it's something that for me, I actively meditate. That's what I've been told, and that's what I believe. That's how I kind of come to meditation, and it's all different, of course. Tell us about your mystery, what was it? Mystery something or other.
Yes. There are a number of mystery schools on the planet, and ours is the Modern Mystery School, which is the only mystery school that is open to the general public. And this is based on ancient lineage teachings coming from the time of King Solomon, and actually before that as well, Elaine. And these teachings have huge weight. They're not new age. They are not something that has just, popped up in the last 100 years. They're something that has been around on our planet for a long time, and which has actually been designed specifically to help us in times such as these. It is based on the premise that each individual has a key part to play, whatever that is, and that key part is already stored within your blueprint, your DNA. And we have both physical and spiritual DNA. And that spiritual DNA can be activated. And that is the core healing within the mystery school, is called what we call it life activation. It activates the DNA. And within our teachings, we say that we have 24 strands of DNA, and the life activation activates the initial 24, but we need, after a few weeks, one of those codons or two of those strands tend to dim, and we need extra activation for that final piece. And that is the 24-strand DNA activation, which happens within what we call a galactic activation. So that's 2 days. The life activation takes a 2-hour session with a life activation practitioner. The galactic activation is a 2-day process whereby you receive amazing teachings coming from a source which is more galactically sourced. And with that, these teachings very much help us with our struggles in our interaction with each other as human beings. Sometimes we find it difficult to tolerate differences in our society, whereas when we start to think of ourselves more on a galactic level, and certainly more in a level from a spiritual perspective, we realize the parts of ourselves that are similar, the parts of ourselves that actually unite us with our brothers and sisters of all backgrounds, all denominations, all skin colors, uniting us really as a human race. And these pieces, when they are studied, are very eye-opening, eye-popping. They help us to negotiate those parts in ourselves that are naysayers around the connectivity that exists between all of us. And it's actually a beautiful 2 days to experience.
Is this something that's done in person, or is it an online activation? How does it work?
Both. That's a really good question, Elaine. Our tradition is an oral tradition. It's an oral handing down. So you do need to be in person. The things that we tend to do online would be something like meditation. We do have Zoom sessions for meditation. And it's interesting you talked about meditation, because we do describe both active and passive meditation within the mystery school. But our path is an initiatory path. And what that means is, when someone comes to us for a life activation, we have the possibility or the opportunity to experience pure light coming in from outside the matrix, from source. So this is poured into that, what we call the holiest of holies, the DNA, our sacred blueprint. And that automatically helps us to see ourselves better. It helps us to see our individual talents, our individual life purpose that we come in with. And that's why in the mystery school, we are really looking to invite people who feel that they have a part to play in leadership in our world, such as it is now. I think there are very few of us that would agree that our world is in a good state right now. And it is time for huge changes. And many of us feel that stirring inside us, that we really want things to be different. And we're looking at our part to contribute to that. And what these things do, the life activation, the galactic activation, and this thing called initiation, what they do is they help us, they give us the tools to really come into that sense of empowerment, that sense of the piece, the key inside us that we have to play, that longing, that engages with that longing. Now, initiation is something different. We have activations are like a form of healing or coming into a realization about yourself. Initiation is where you step into something. And this is an initiatory path. It's a path of progression. It helps us to, a little bit like the training of the ancient samurai. But this school is different. We are not like monks going off into a cave where we will meditate for hours on end and come to personal realization within ourselves. That is not our path. Our path is dealing with human beings in their everyday process of life, so that you have one foot, yes, in this everyday life, but you also have a footing in that spiritual realm where you can use the tools that we give and that we work with on the initiatory path to pull in that higher teaching into everyday life. Now, that, as you can imagine, that brings in incredible empowerment into our everyday life, and that comes with responsibility. And the tools that we have help to keep us in our highest vibration. Now, I noticed, I was working in, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I was working in a hospice situation some years ago now, and I found myself really exhausted at the end of the day. And because I was, and still am, a very empathetic person, I was able to feel and sense so much of what was going on for the individuals whom I was working with, and also their beautiful family circles and their support circles. And I didn't quite know what to do with that. You know, I already had gone down many paths to keep me strong and keep me engaged with my own internal powerhouse. But I didn't quite appreciate at that time the infinite source that was really there at my disposal. And by engaging with a 2-day class called Empower Thyself, I was able to gain tools that could literally help me to understand energy at a very, very different level, and to engage with the angelic realm as well at a whole other level. So that when I was working with patients and when I was working with my clients, I could maintain myself in that very high vibration and bring them up to that, rather than me going way down into what it was that they were presenting with. Now, that was a huge shift in my reality as a practicing GP, as a practicing physician, and also as a healer in my own right as well, because that gave me tools whereby I could keep myself continually in that high place of vibration and present for whoever was coming to me. And it also gave me tools of protection. Now, when I say protection, you know, what am I protecting myself from? Well, energy is everywhere. We are all sharing this energy. And when someone comes to us in that low place, and particularly if you're an empath, you will recognize this, that sometimes that can bring you down a little bit as well. And it's hard to maintain that as a healer, as a leader, as someone who's an entrepreneur, as someone who has already, you know, done a lot of work on ourselves and who continues to do that and wants to evolve further. This is the path. Of itself, it has done so much for me personally. And that is why I am now an international teacher with Modern Mystery School. I travel worldwide, and I also am responsible here for teaching in Ireland. So I work both in the north and in the south, here in Derry, in Londonderry, and also in Dublin.
Wonderful. It sounds such a contrast between the regular GP conversation and what you've just explained. So do you have these conversations with your regular GP patients, or do you kind of keep the two separate? How does it work in your life?
Well, when I work as a doctor, obviously there would be a probity issue if I was saying, oh, please come to me, because here in Northern Ireland is part of the NHS. So obviously someone comes to me that is, you know, free care. So if someone really wants to engage with this, I can refer to my colleagues if that is what the person wants. So yes, I find for me, what this work does for me is it helps me to be present to others at a very different level. So when I go into, we got to remember that palliative medicine works with patients both on the physical, the mental, the spiritual, and the emotional, psychological level as well. So it really helps me to engage with all of those levels and be strong for whoever it is. And also this, you know, palliative medicine, you're working with in teams. You know, you don't have to be the one person who does absolutely everything. You have a great deal of colleagues. And so communication is a huge part in that. And so I'm very blessed to work with incredible teams who also know what I do and who, you know, appreciate what I can do for teams that I work with as well, what I can bring to that. So I would say, and I mean, I teach meditation locally. Some of my colleagues come to me for that. Some of my colleagues will come to me for healing work as well. So what I find is that it helps us to remain strong in times when we are challenged. And every one of us is being challenged right now. This, you know, our next roll in with COVID, the isolation that causes, we're having to spend more time, interestingly, getting to know ourselves, which is very much part of the journey that one goes on with the mystery school. So whether we like it or not, many of us are having to ask ourselves big questions in life. And these questions, we have a path within the school called the Universal Hermetic Ray Kabbalah. And in that path, we ask ourselves, who am I? What am I? Where did I come from? Where am I going? And what is my purpose? And we take those questions on a journey of the Tree of Life. And during that year of study, or that 10 months of study, we get the opportunity to engage with the divinity within us when we ask ourselves that question, and to find the answers deep within. And it's the mystery within us. It's engaging with the mystery within us. And I feel that in our modern day world, very often we have forgotten the incredible resources that we have within ourselves that exist within both the seen and the unseen worlds. So this is an opportunity to acknowledge that again, and also to find what it is that gives us the strength to move forward, but also the direction to make sure that the next 100 years or the next decade or the next year, whatever it is that you're thinking about right now, is of a higher purpose, that it has a sense of evolution, because that is where we need to go as human beings. And it is possible. That's the important thing, that we recognize that it is possible, especially if many of us are willing to engage inwardly. We have a saying within the mystery school, as within, so without. It's part of our Hermetic teaching. And Hermetic teaching is those teachings whereby it's outside the norm of everyday life, and yet we can apply it to everyday life and create miracles within that.
Purpose. I wrote a paper this morning, an article this morning on purpose. What is your purpose? All these all these things, you know, keep on happening. It's just incredible. And my purpose is very clear, but a lot of people never think about their purpose. They just don't, because life is so fast, isn't it? We're under so much pressure. Do this, do that, be the best, the biggest, the fastest, you know, whatever it is. And that comes from so many different places that very often are toxic. So we end up in this kind of toxic soup, don't we, that sometimes people just don't even realize they're in, never mind, you know, try and get out of it. So it's all fascinating. Tell us about your book, because you're a bestseller, aren't you, Anne?
Yes, I am, Elaine. And this came because of COVID. Actually, during lockdown, I had a couple of weekends where I knew there was a book brewing in me. And it had been brewing in me because I had gone back onto the dating scene again after 5 years of, you know, not having anyone within my life. And my dear friends grabbed me by the nape of the neck and said, "Anne, enough is enough. We're going to have to get you on that."
I keep getting that conversation as well, and I keep going, "Oh, go away, I'm happily single, just go away, be off with you," you know. Okay, so they got you. So what happened?
They got me, Elaine. But the results were actually rather hilarious. I mean, I had many different experiences. I went on to Tinder and 2 apps, Tinder and Bumble, and I started to just engage with people, just chit-chatting back and forth, and then I was ready to meet someone. And I'll let you in a little secret. The first person that I was supposed to meet, he never turned up.
He didn't turn up. Maybe he did turn up and then went out the other door or something. Who knows? He didn't make himself known.
It was very funny, Elaine, because it's all in the book. Because the book consists of 22 chapters. The first, it alternates between setting the background and, you know, the first encounter, and then the second chapter, or the chapter that comes after that, then is all the lessons learned. So for me, it was a big part of getting to understand myself, because the truth is that life will teach us many lessons. And the path that I've chosen, the mystery school path, has accelerated my learning without doubt. Things that would have taken me so much longer to move through have begun to, my lessons have come quicker in life. And I found that I moved through issues so much more quicker. after my Empower Thyself, things that would have bothered me so much beforehand, started to run like water off a duck's back. It was like that little, sense of, oh my gosh, this stuff really works. And it wasn't that I had to be able to rationalize that. I didn't have to think, this has resulted in this. It actually happened. And that's why we often call it magic that we use within the mystery school, because it is literally where we take nothing and turn it into something, or take something and turn it into something else. But back to the book. So what happened was I started to write down some titles in my little notes on my phone, and because they would come to me, and I thought, oh my gosh, this would be a brilliant chapter in a book if I ever decide to write it. And I found that when I would come in and I would say, oh, Anne, what happened last night? Or how did you get on with your date? The storytelling had people in stitches. It really did. And because that was the case, I realized, there's this book has legs. And not only that, it maybe can give some people a little bit of hope around what can potentially happen between a man and a woman. Because in our world, as we know, things have changed, the pendulum has swung, and women a lot of the times now are more suspicious of men perhaps, and less accepting, and there isn't as much generosity between the opposing sexes. And that actually hurt me a lot, because I have beautiful brothers. I've grown up with them. We used to fight like cats and dogs, but we are now the best of friends. And there is that thing about men and how much they can. We each are so different. Men are different. Women are different. And so as I wrote the book, I was holding myself to account in the way that I was thinking about myself as an individual, how I was responding to a hurt that I might feel if someone sent a certain message, how I responded to that. And it was just watching that and going through all of that. And then noticing how, when I was feeling good inside myself, how that rippled out to the people who were responding to me. So I noticed that the reflection, I was reflecting out to those people who were coming to me. And it's a beautiful story, a beautiful series of stories based on truth. So please don't take some of the things with a little pinch of salt, but it is all really important as well to, for us as women to embody that sense of our sensuality, our sexuality. And I approached two ladies to help me to stick to a timeline. And also when I published the book, I became a bestseller very, very fast, because of their guidance in where to publish it within Amazon. So that was pretty amazing. And with that, I became a bestseller within etiquette, within women's sexuality, psychology, sociology, here in the UK, in America, and in India. So it was really quite something. And, with that, I felt, thank goodness this is getting to people, the message is getting out there, that the more empowered we become as individuals, the more we can create good and beauty in our own lives. And personally, I believe that peace within becomes peace outside as well. And that is how we, as the Mystery School, are creating peace in our world, by helping individuals find that peace inside themselves.
Wonderful. And I have to ask, has Tinder and Bumble been successful for you?
Yes, very, very much. I actually found love over and over and over again. And I have to say that I wrote a chapter in the book about love and about the different types of love. And that chapter stands out to me as something that really, I think everyone needs to know about, because you are going to feel differently about different connections. And I wanted that experience. And I wanted that experience with the polar opposite to me, which is a man. Let's face it, we're completely different species. And so I had a wonderful time, and you know, you can read about that. As a matter of fact, what came out of that then was this piece that I now do, which is called The Love Revolution. And you will find me on Facebook. I have a webinar. It's actually a Zoom meeting rather than a Zoom webinar, where we are having an intimate gathering, and you're very welcome to join me. It's next Monday night on the 10th of January, and it's between 8 p.m. and 9:30 GMT. And in that, I'm talking about how to create a romantic 2022. Now, that is for individuals who are in relationships and individuals who are not, because romance it has an energy with it, and we can create romance in our lives in so many different ways. And I'm excited because in that meeting we will discover ways to increase romance in our relationships, how to bring up the topic, because communication is a huge thing around this. And sometimes you might have a partner who just thinks, that's not for me. And it's how to open up that topic, how to converse, how to communicate. And then when we're in that, you know, how to make life more romantic for ourselves as well. And whoever attends that will go away with a little pack for 2022 to remind them of the romantic side of things. Personally, I feel romance for me is one of my passions. It's one of my passions in life. It keeps me connected to the juiciness of living, and also to, you know, finding that little nugget inside everything that happens. You know, sometimes life serves us up, you know, lemons. It's hard to make lemonade with our lemons.
Wonderful. So how can people find you? Where do people find you, Anne?
Well,
give us your contact, all of your contact details. You've got so many things that you're offering. So just run through all of your contact details.
Okay, so my website is Ann Donnelly, ANN Donnelly, DONNELLY.co.uk, and you will find a contact piece there. I also have a Facebook. I'm on Facebook as Ann Donnelly, ANN Donnelly, DONNELLY, and I'm on Instagram, Dr. Donnelly. And each of these platforms will give you access to me as well. You might be on one more than another. I tend to find I'm most active in Facebook, but that's changing. I'm developing the other areas as well, just to give people access, because everyone engages more with different aspects of social media at the minute. So yes, it's going to be a busy year, 2022, but I'm excited about it, and I'm excited to get to know you, Elaine, better as well, and everything that you're doing, and keeping up with the excitement of 2022.
Wonderful. It's been lovely speaking with you initially, and I'm sure we will be connecting more often. And thank you very much for your time today.
Elaine, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.